Hello, my friend, and welcome to our Summer Sizzle series. This is our third episode of the series. Today, we're talking not about initiative desires or walking through just how we receive intimacy in general. We're talking about sexual intimacy and how we receive that versus, like I said, always initiate. So pay attention today. And of course, check this out with your spouse to see if this is actually true for them. This is a great episode for the two of you to reconnect about your sexual intimacy in a safe way and just to say to each other, this is something I was learning about my type and also your type. Is this true for you? This is what was true for me about the episode. And this is what I actually learned from other types or feel like I'm a little bit different because, of course, we know you are more than just your type. So, welcome again to today's episode. I hope you're having a great summer. We are all shored up back from our travels, and I was just looking around my office and feeling like I'm finally really back home. The girls and I also had a girls' getaway to St. Augustine. We all three drove. We had so much fun, and I still haven't touched all my audio recordings of the Europe trip. It was just so big. I have to take some more deep breaths and am now going to be starting writing. And so I just have to pace myself, as I'm sure you guys do too. And I'm really thankful and excited to have good things for all of us here. And in light of that, staying present to what we have going on for just a little bit longer, don't forget that the Dating Divas Bundle will dissolve soon. Myself, along with 25 other marriage experts, have come together to give you a super summer savings on lots of products just to shore you guys up for your marriage all summer long. So there's lots of sexual intimacy trainings for you guys if you just need some help in that area. There's lots of date night tips. There's tips for younger kids, older kids, working with all of these groups. And instead of paying for a therapy session, you get it all for $35. And I think it's a great deal. I'm already going through them myself. And I always appreciate the date night helps because as you can imagine, as a type 7, I don't like to be bored. So whenever I see something like, oh my gosh, like this would really help. We've been together having date nights for almost 30 years, you guys. Sometimes I need help too. So I love these Dating Divas bundles for that reason. And I am so thankful that I also get assistance in this because, like I said, we're all in it together. Oh my gosh, last week, what a big week. We actually saw culturally, you may have read my Substack post about the Coldplay incident. Oh my goodness, I felt so bad for the wife and the husband of the couple who was found at the Coldplay concert. I felt bad that everyone was processing it through just humor. I understand things are funny. We can do the emotional bypass, but I also just want to lament with you that that happened at all. And that hopefully, if you're a person of prayer, you spent some time praying for the families involved as well, because we want our relationships to have the most success out there. And the last thing we want is for people to be out there with other partners. And so I'm just really, really sorry to hear about that. And also, having been to Coldplay concerts with my husband, I know how intimate they can be and how special and sacred. And I hope that you will take some time to work on your marriage so that you guys can rise up. And if you're involved in an enmeshed relationship with somebody that you're not, make sure you get help. We're here to help, and lots of others are too. Lots and lots of couples have been where you are if you're there, and you can get through this. This is probably a bit of a nightmare for you, and it could be a bigger one. So I hope that you'll reach out and get help and support. Today's episode is exactly that, to keep your marriage shored up so that you guys are able to say, we're solid. We talk about our intimacy. We're not just bypassing it, and we're not just going to pretend it doesn't exist, which I've seen lots of couples do and go into that partnership space. We're not going to be all about our sexual dynamic and not the rest of our relationship, which of course I've seen couples do. And I do get it, that baseline. We want to have the Maslowian marriage mountain covered, right? We want to have our basic safety. We want to be able to have sexual relationships. Often it's male and female, like the woman saying, I want safety, the male saying, I want sex. But we know that most people would not want sex without emotional safety. And most people in a marriage would say, I would really like to have a sexual experience too, not just friendship with my partner. So keep in mind, both of those are solid ground to start from. But again, sometimes we have stress and struggle. So today's episode, we're going to look at some different groupings, some different triads, if you will, instead of the typical ones we're used to. We're going to look at a few groups that make you kind of take some pause and say, oh, okay, this is a group I need to pay attention to in terms of the ways that they respond sexually, and check in with your partner, like I said about that. So take a nice deep breath, come into the episode with me, and we're going to look at first types 1, 4, and 5, right? This is, like I said, a different triad. We're not used to these three types being paired together, but here I'm just trying to create some rhythms for you to understand how different types work in the sexual arena. So the couples that I've coached through that are 1s, 4s, and 5s often need beautiful, private, and unhurried environments. So it doesn't mean that if they're a 5, everything has to be full of beauty, but it does mean that if they're a 1, 4, or 5, or if that's you, there is an element they want of not feeling rushed or rushed into something, not feeling exposed, and not feeling like you don't care about them, their energy, and the sense of union that they want to make sure they have before they embark on this sexual journey with you. And that is not necessarily true of the other types. The other types have their own preferences, which we'll get into soon, and they may share these preferences. But if you are with a 1, 4, or 5 in your marriage, make sure you're really mindful of creating beauty and of allowing for some romance and slower rhythms. And it's just the way people are wired, right? Like I was taking my daughters to the bank the other day and they were depositing euros in for cash. And my type 4 was taking a long time getting out of my car. And my type 9 daughter was actually being pretty patient with her. She wasn't saying anything at all. And this man came up and he kind of snarkily said to Hannah, my 4, "Hey, get out. Your sister's waiting for you. You're taking too long." And it was just ridiculous. You know how people can be. But I didn't know about it until after. I might have had something to say, but I probably wouldn't have because I would have laughed like, wow, he's so wow, just wow. I have my 8-wing moments. That probably wouldn't have been a choice 8-wing moment. But anyway, I was just thinking he totally missed who she is. She takes a long time getting out of the car. And that's just something we've come to learn about her. And we're still, of course, trying sometimes to get her moving. But if this is you and your partner and you're having a marriage moment, don't hurry them. Let them be who they are, or they're going to feel like so out of sorts. That's in regular life where you're still supposed to take a deep breath and be patient for your partner. And I know Wes, being a 1 in regular life, sometimes does things more slowly. And you just have to learn to take a deep breath and pause and allow them to do their thing and to know that that's how it's going to be. I can remember him at airport security taking a very long time. And I know it's because he wanted to make sure he had everything before he left. And that would bring peace. And I'm not going to give sexual examples because I want you to extrapolate your own experiences. But I definitely want you to understand if you're with a 1, 4, or 5, or if you are a 1, 4, or 5, that it's really important to honor that. And not just the beauty, not just the privacy, but also that unhurried response is so important, or they're going to feel like you don't care, like you don't get me. So whichever of those 3 is the most important, you can also ask them and see if they have a different nuance for you, like I said at the beginning of the episode. And now let's move on to types 2, 6, and 9, who like emotional safety and a more gentle approach typically. And I'll explain what I mean by that. For type 2s, oftentimes there's a sense of, I'm not necessarily feeling safe to present who I am, but I want to serve you. And so there's a bit of a guard up. And for a 9, you might have a similar, I'll merge with you. What do you want to do? I don't care. But really, there's a lot of opinions underneath. And for a 6, often there's a sense of desiring safety and a different way than the 2, because the 2 is really wanting to have the emotion like, am I loved if I ask for my needs? And hopefully you can say, you are loved. I know you have needs too. Please share your needs and your desires and figure them out with me. I can be patient with you. And the same thing for your 9. I can be patient while you figure out what you like. We can play a little this or that together. And your desires are important. But with the 6, it's, you are safe. You are held. You are loved in that way of, I'm not going anywhere and I care about your care and security. So all of these 3 types in general are going to need emotional safety and a bit more of a gentle approach. 2 and 9 because they're positivity, and 6 because they could feel that alarm button sounded, and that's not a good place from which to have intimacy, and oxytocin doesn't flow when we're not really relaxed. So I want you to keep in mind, if you have a partner who's a 2, 6, or 9, that you come in with more relaxed, emotional regulation, and that you work to make them feel safe and secure. And I try to do it both and with my 9 daughter whenever I have to work with her on anything where I'm like, okay, we can watch Gilmore Girls, but then I need you to go do this. And it's like you're balancing out. I see your need for peace and rest, but I also want to encourage you to do something in that action. And I think it would be remiss if we just said nines get into action, twos get into service, sixes get into planning. Instead, we need to realize these three types really need rest. They really need to be seen and loved for who they are. Really important to all that we're talking about today is that everyone be loved for who they are. And I think every episode here at Enneagram Marriage, I want that to be part of it, but I just want to name it right here, especially. You absolutely could never bypass that with a two, six, or a nine. So just keep that in mind. And as we move on to our final three types, three, seven, and eight, we know that we love in this triad when you can match energy and enthusiasm. And the energy could be low, medium, or high. But if it's high, then there's that hope that you will show care with energy, because that's a gift that we can give each other, is the energy that we do have. And we're going to talk in a minute about when we don't have that energy, because even 378 sometimes do not have that energy. Oh my goodness, of course. But to be able to say, hey, if I do have this many waking hours in a week and my partner wants to connect in our marriage through a sexual experience, I'm not going to show up at 11 p.m. without any kind of preparation energy wise. And that is different from that group that I mentioned, the beauty, unhurried, privacy, the 1, 4, and 5, in that this group typically, again, check with each other, really cares more about the meeting of two souls without worrying about environment as much, and more worried about the connection between you being full of energy. So, an example could be that maybe you had an argument in the daytime, and then later that day they're ready for you, they've switched, they're ready, they're like, yeah, that was a bad moment, but let's continue our day with something good. That's something that some of the other types might say, oh my gosh, like that was a hard day, we need a complete reset, I need to sleep, and or maybe I still feel hurt. And a 3, 7, 8 is more likely to say, if we truly healed the breach, let's move forward. This is a future thinking group here, and let's reconnect in the way that matters to us. And if we didn't, that's different. But if we did, let's match our energy together and allow ourselves to feel like we can connect in that way. And I think that, of course, if there's enthusiasm for let's be together, I save some time for us later, then to be showing up with another bit of enthusiasm, at least at the beginning. It doesn't have to be that you match the whole time, but if there's a bit of a like, oh my gosh, a rah rah, and then you join in with some energy, some fun, some humor, these types feel like you're showing up for them, because as we know, 3, 7, and 8s show up pretty big in the world. So definitely realizing you can't match every energy moment, but some of them, like I know that, for instance, I was driving home with, like I said, a 9 today, and we were on a long car trip, and on the way there the girls and I had traded turns driving, and on the way back I said, I've got it. I just saw both of my daughters in such happy places with reading that I was like, this is probably going to be a 4-hour drive, but it'll be a lovely time for me to think and for me to process and for me to just listen to music. I wasn't wanting podcast mode, I wasn't wanting thinking mode, just a beautiful peaceful space. And yet, when they would show up occasionally for enthusiasm, I was just ready for it. I was like, oh my gosh, hello again. And when my daughter said she wanted to watch a show at one point together, like while I drove and she listened to Gilmore Girls, I was like, yes. And it was fun, but I was like, it is a little bit of a low key fun for me. Like, so, again, I'm not going to extrapolate all of this into bedroom talk, because you guys can do that yourselves. But just to be able to say, I'm working with the temperament with me, but I appreciate when the temperament with me will rise up to meet me with energy. I also might be the other temperament where I'm appreciating that they will be a little more low key or invite me into a space that is more beautiful or more tempered with a space of safety emotionally, or a space of mystery if we're a type 4. So there's so many great conversations you can have now from this bit of a launching pad. But before we would end, I want to make sure we talk about what a healthy no can look like too. You already heard me say in general, loving your partner just the way they are in your marriage is the number one thing I always recommend. Even though I know we're all trying to get better, just already loving them versus like you have to change. And then the other piece of that is respecting who they actually are. But even if you're like, hey, I'm showing up, I'm loving them for who they are, I'm even getting nuanced into this beauty thing or this enthusiasm thing or this emotional safety thing, whatever it is, and they're still not picking up my scent, they're still not on the trail, they may just not be into you right now at that moment. And that's okay because they are going to come back to you if you don't push too hard. You guys remember me talking a lot about the pursuer distancer cycle, and that's part of your sexual life as well. You don't want to push too hard because that's a turnoff. You want to allow your partner to come to you also, a back and forth, a hide and seek. And so just know that if you're not in the space of really wanting to relate sexually, that you know to give the art of the loving no. That is so important. Oh my gosh. The girls and I watched a few movies this weekend, but one of them that we watched, they watched Big Fat Greek Wedding too for one of them, but another one was that we all watched was It Ends With Us with the Colleen Hoover and the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni suit continues to go on. But what we were talking about is the no, right? And that was within a marriage, needing to say no if you've seen that movie or read that book. And it was a really important, sacred no that the character was finally able to give and deliver. And there's a lot of drama within that, but that was a really good piece for me to teach my developing kids. And at some point, it'll be important for me to talk to my son about that as well, but he's not at that age level. So I really appreciate Sam Jolman coming on the pod and saying, like, let's continue to have these conversations and dialogue with our families, because you don't need one sex talk with your kid. You need a lot. And sometimes just taking a little time away is going to get you that. And after 17 or so days of Wes and I and the boys, I meant to say, and the girls, it was really like we needed our little getaways, and we got all these good conversations. And I know he and Jack did too. And they also shot BB guns and had so much fun going tubing along a river. And now we're just home for a couple months. And like I said, I'll be writing, but just getting to talk about learning to say no well is so important within marriage. And so for those more direct types, to be able to just say, the 3, 7, 8s, like, I know and love that you want me, but I'm just not in the right space right now. You could say head space, whatever, heart space. Can we connect tomorrow? Can we connect tomorrow morning even? Whatever time frame is, the sooner the better. The 3, 7, 8 is usually up for whatever is desired when they are in the right space. They're not usually likely to be super dramatic about it. Now, if they have a big issue, of course, there's going to be some reserve. But if they're doing well, it might just be they're just not in the space for it. So they're not going to be adding a lot of drama. Okay, now we already went over the 3, but I will add that for the 2 and the 4, make sure that you allow for some emotional attention if they're feeling unconnected. Like, this is a no right now for me because I don't feel emotional attention. That's a good time and space to be able to say, I really respect that. And we can talk for a few minutes first, or maybe we can do this later or tomorrow if it's not feeling, even after a few minutes, like we got some couch time in. I know a couple who likes to go sit on their couch in their love seat and just have some time together before, but others are like, you know what? No, I don't feel connected right now. And we can try that. But if it doesn't connect for me emotionally, then no, thank you. For a little bit of more gentle approach for types, if you're a 5, 6, or 9, you can say, I appreciate wanting to connect with you. I need to recharge tonight. I'd love to plan time together this weekend or whatever day. Just because the 5, of course, we know is going to need their energy. The 9 is going to need to get in their right mind frame. And the 6 is going to need to feel safety and security. So sometimes those really will require them to also set that boundary and say, this is what it's looking like for me right now. What I don't want for these types, especially the 9, because I have seen that with the 9, is disappearing out of the picture altogether. Like, come back and be in it. I know it's hard to ask. It's tricky. It's risky. I've seen that with 5s too, quite honestly, because they feel, I don't want to be rejected, but you've got to make time. I've seen actually 6s get so practical that they can let go of it altogether. So this is a group I'm really curious about and want to make sure you come back in with some time frame you will be ready and to show up for that and be ready. And then of course for our type ones, when they want to say yes but they feel like the conditions aren't quite right, could we wait until the kids are asleep? Could we wait until we've had a shower? Whatever it is, ask the one what is the condition, because usually they can think about it, pause, and get specific and help you to know that. So make sure you know. Sometimes there's that art of saying the loving no. And I've given you quite a lot to think about today. So I'll land with just a couple pieces. And that is just first, awesome job on being here today with me, and talk to your partner. Say in your marriage, I learned I tend to respond to intimacy invitations by this. And I was wondering what you need from me when you're responding to my invitations. Well, how do you feel when I ask you to be intimate? And maybe they'll say, you never do. I would love for you to. Or, no, that's so awkward for me. I know Sam Jolman talked about this. I also heard Jay Stringer talk about this on his sexual attachment conference, but sometimes it's really risky and vulnerable feeling and exposing to allow somebody else to take the lead or to become undone with another person. There's psychology to that, right? The vulnerability. So get some help if you're in that space, or start doing some baby step 1% better work on that area of your marriage if you find that you're in that space of not letting your partner ever ask you, but you have to be the one in control. There's a lot there that we could talk about. And also, what does a loving not tonight look like for us? And so really allow yourselves to ask these questions about supporting each other better, a loving no, coming back in with a loving yes as soon as possible, and allowing yourselves to be loved authentically for who you are, even while we're doing this work together. So as I said, do not forget the Dating Divas bundle will dissolve after this week. So grab that in the show notes. It's all there for you for $35. It's all PDF. I'm still going through and opening mine. Some of them are actually videos that I'm noticing, and I'm really excited for you to check those out too, so that you have lots of tools. And I have really enjoyed this time with you today. I'm loving that we're doing this series. And this week, when your partner responds to your invitation for intimacy, make sure you say thank you. Thank you for being honest about what you need right now, and watch how safety will transform everything. So, I love that. I'm a safety girl, and we'll talk soon. I hope you have an intentional week, and everything's in the show notes for you. Bye bye.